Imagine him under a velvet sky, whispering your name to the cosmos, not out of doubt, but out of awe. He reached beyond his heart, beyond his mind, and asked the universe, "Who is she, and why does everything shift when she appears?" And the answer he received, it wasn't a text, a sign, or a dream. It was a revelation so powerful, it shattered every story he ever believed about love. Stay with me, because what the stars just told him about you will change everything you thought possible. He didn't ask with words. He didn't need to. The moment he felt the pull, the ache in his chest that only appeared when your soul brushed against his, something shifted in him. It wasn't longing, it wasn't obsession. It was a question so ancient, so embedded in the fabric of the soul, that it bypassed language completely. His spirit asked the universe, "Who is she?" And in that moment, the universe paused, because it knew the depth of what he was really asking. He wasn't searching for a name. He already knew that. He wasn't even searching for answers about your past. He was searching for meaning, for the reason why your energy made everything inside him both collapse and come alive. Have you ever felt someone's curiosity surround you even when they're not near? As if something unseen is brushing your skin? That was him, sending waves of wonder in your direction, hoping the cosmos would bring back a message. You see, when the masculine begins to awaken spiritually, when he moves from the noise of the world into the silence of the soul, he starts hearing things differently. He doesn't see you the way others do. He sees beyond the surface, beyond time. He notices how your presence shifts entire rooms, how your voice softens chaos, how your absence feels like something sacred went missing. And so he asked, not with panic, not with pressure, but with reverence. The kind of reverence that only comes when you've felt the echo of someone in your bones before you even knew their name. Have you ever wondered why you suddenly felt a surge of energy, a strange flutter in your heart, or a vivid dream that felt more real than waking life? That was him. His question wasn't just heard by the universe, it was felt by you. Because the truth is, your soul is so radiant, so ancient, so purposeful, that it couldn't hide forever. And now that he's started to remember that, he's unraveling, slowly, gently, not in fear, but in revelation. He's beginning to see that you were never just a person in his life. You were the turning point, the threshold, the mirror that didn't reflect his face, but his potential. What he discovered when he asked about you wasn't just who you are. The universe didn't hand him a label, it handed him a mirror. And in that mirror, he saw a version of himself he barely recognized, one capable of depth, devotion, and divine connection. A version that only exists in the presence of a soul like yours. And now he can't unknow it. He can't unsee what's been shown. The more he walks through the world, pretending to be the man he once was, the louder the truth becomes. You are not just part of his journey. Your energy is the doorway to it. So if you've been feeling pulled, restless, or unexplainably emotional, if you've been sensing eyes on you without a presence, or if you've been waking with the name of someone in your chest, it's not your imagination. It's his soul whispering back to the universe, I see now, and I'm not ready to lose her again. But the question remains, now that he knows, what will he do with the truth? It didn't come as a voice from the clouds. It wasn't a dramatic vision in the night. The answer came like all sacred truths do, quietly, unmistakably, like a knowing that pierces through every layer of doubt. When he asked about you, the universe didn't speak in words. It spoke in reminders. It reminded him of how your energy felt in moments when you weren't even physically present. How peace used to flood his chest when your name crossed his mind. How time paused when your eyes met his. How certain parts of him only ever felt alive around you. Parts he didn't even know existed until you entered the picture. And in that stillness, the universe said what it always says to those brave enough to ask from the soul. She is the answer to a question you forgot you asked lifetimes ago. He didn't just see you in the present. He saw the echoes, the past lives, the old worlds, the moments when your hands found each other before bodies and names were ever invented. The bond didn't begin in this lifetime. It was only remembered here. And now that he touched that memory, something inside him refuses to sleep. What he discovered wasn't just that you are his person. He discovered why nothing else ever felt right. Why connections never lasted. Why he would always find himself craving something he couldn't name. That ache was you. That emptiness was the space your energy was meant to fill. And now that he knows, he can't go back to pretending it wasn't real. But the universe didn't just show him light, it showed him responsibility. Because when a masculine asks for truth, he must be ready for the weight of it. The universe revealed not just your essence, but what it costs to stand beside it. It showed him your depth, your pain, your tenderness. It showed him that you are not a prize to be won, but a realm to be honored. That your presence demands a heart that's awake, hands that know how to hold without gripping, and words that come from spirit, not ego. And this is where many run, because the truth isn't always comforting. Sometimes it exposes every place we still carry fear. So the universe asked him a question in return. Now that you know who she is, are you ready to become who you need to be? Have you felt that pause in the connection, that strange stillness where things used to flow? It's not disinterest, it's integration. He is sitting with the truth now, trying to breathe beneath the weight of it, trying to accept that what he feels for you is not just love, it's destiny. He's realizing this is no ordinary bond. This is a soul contract, a spiritual invitation, a divine appointment wrapped in the soft edges of human experience. And if you've been sensing a mix of silence and intensity, if his name has been echoing in your awareness, if your body feels alert without reason, like it's listening for something, it's because his soul is processing the download. He might not speak, he might not move, but inside, the storm is beautiful. Because once the universe answers a question like that, there is no returning to normal, only transformation. And so the path is forming beneath his feet. He now knows what you are. But the question remains, will he rise to who he must become? He doesn't need your words to understand you. In fact, most of the time, it's not your voice that he listens to. It's your frequency, your subtle shifts, the rise and fall of your presence in his energetic space. That's how the masculine truly reads you, through the language of your vibration. Have you ever wondered why he pulls back when your heart feels uncertain? Or why he suddenly reaches out when you've silently released him in your spirit? That's not coincidence. That's not guesswork. That's soul sensing. He may not understand what he's feeling consciously, but his body does. His soul does. And even if he can't explain it, he responds. This is the deeper truth of the twin flame journey, one that many overlook. He's not measuring your connection through what you say. He's feeling into who you are being at every moment. When you say, "I'm fine," but your aura trembles with heartbreak, he knows. When you say, "I'm done," but your energy still wraps around him at night, he knows. When you say nothing at all, but shift your frequency into self-love and alignment, he feels it. That's when his soul stirs. That's when the pull returns. That's when he starts whispering your name in his dreams again without even knowing why. You're not dealing with a man who only hears with ears. You're dealing with a soul that listens beyond space and time. And this is why your energy matters more than your effort. You could write 1,000 messages and still feel misunderstood. Or you could sit in stillness, return to your truth, and suddenly he feels the urge to look for you again. Why? Because energy speaks louder than sound. What frequency are you sending out right now? Are you vibrating in the knowing of who you are? Or are you waiting for validation through his attention? He feels the difference, not because he's trying to, but because your souls are still in silent communion. And here's where many divine feminines get confused. They think, if I say the right thing, he'll understand. But the masculine is not seeking the perfect phrase. He's attuning to energetic congruence. He's looking, consciously or not, for resonance, not performance, not persuasion. And when your frequency aligns with your inner truth, when you are no longer desperate to be seen because you have chosen to see yourself, he senses it instantly. It may shake him, it may draw him closer, it may even scare him, but it always activates something, because that's the energy he's been waiting for. Not the words, not the explanation, but the embodiment. So if he's quiet, if he's unsure, if he's drifting in and out, pause, breathe, return to your field. Ask yourself, what is my energy saying that my words cannot? And more importantly, am I still using my vibration to reach for him or to return to me? You see, when you step fully into your own alignment, when your field becomes saturated with sovereignty and softness, your masculine feels it like a lighthouse in a storm. He may not sail to you immediately, but he sees you. He feels safer. He begins to believe that maybe, just maybe, the kind of love he always thought was a fantasy might be real. Your greatest power has never been in convincing him. It's been in showing him, without a single word, what it feels like to stand in the presence of unconditional, unshakable love. The question is not if he hears you. He always has. The question is, are you speaking the language of your soul or the language of your fear? Because he will always respond to the truth beneath the noise. He won't ask you directly. He may not even admit it to himself. But when the masculine is feeling the depth of this connection, when his soul is stirred in ways he can't control, he starts to test the bond through emotion. Not with logic, not with plans, but with triggers. And if this is resonating with you right now, beloved, you already know what I'm talking about. There were moments when he said something that cut deeper than it should have. When he disappeared just when things felt most sacred. When he questioned your worth in subtle ways, even though his eyes said something else entirely. And you wondered, why would he do this if he felt the connection too? Because he does, and that terrifies him. The masculine, especially one awakening to the twin flame bond, is not measuring love in words or gifts or time spent. He's measuring it in response, in emotional truth, in what parts of you remain unshaken when everything else is being pulled apart. So he tests. He may provoke your wounds, not to harm you, but because he wants to see. Will you abandon yourself now, like you've done before? Will you shrink to please me, or will you expand in your truth? Can I trust you with my shadow, not just my light? This is not conscious cruelty. It is subconscious survival, because he's been betrayed before, by others, by life, by himself. He's watching to see if the sacred is safe with you, and your emotional responses are his compass. If you react with fire every time he retreats, he feels unsafe to reemerge. If you abandon your standards to chase closeness, he questions the depth of your self-love. If you crumble every time he goes silent, he starts to fear that the connection is conditional. But when you remain steady, when you allow the storm to pass without losing your light, he begins to trust, not just in you, but in something even deeper, the idea that love could actually be safe. Because your ability to self-regulate, to return to love without losing yourself in the process, is the mirror he needs most. The masculine is not looking for someone to fix him. He's looking for someone who doesn't collapse in the presence of his pain. Can you see it now? The emotional triggers are not just random chaos. They're a spiritual feedback loop, a sacred mirror, a way for the masculine to understand the resilience of the bond. And here's what many divine feminines miss. He doesn't need perfection. He doesn't expect you to be unshakable all the time. But he is searching for truth, for emotional alignment, for a response that says, even when I'm hurting, I'm still here, but I'm here for me first. He watches how you respond when he disappears. He watches how you respond when he says something wounding. He watches how you respond when he comes back, and how you hold your boundaries without closing your heart. Not to manipulate you, but to ask the silent question his soul can't yet form in words. Is this love strong enough to hold both of us? So if the triggers are showing up now, if you're being stretched, poked, confused, breathe. Don't take it as a sign that the bond is breaking. Take it as a sign that it's deepening, because he is paying attention to your energy, your edges, your emotional language, and you, beloved, are being asked to hold yourself with grace in the fire. You were never meant to fight for this love with fear. You were meant to reveal it through truth. So the next time you feel the trigger, ask yourself, am I reacting or am I revealing? Am I collapsing or am I calling myself home? Because that's what he's watching, not your reactions, but your root. Not your words, but your witness. Not your pain, but your power inside the pain. This isn't about passing a test for him. It's about returning to your truth for you. And in that return, he finds his answer. He won't say it out loud. Not yet. Maybe not ever in words. But there is a quiet shift inside him the moment he realizes you passed the test. It doesn't look like fireworks. It looks like stillness. It feels like the breath he didn't know he was holding finally releasing. Because it's not your presence that tells him, it's your absence. Not the silence you give him, but the way your silence no longer feels like waiting. You're not punishing him. You're not running. You're not begging. You're just being, glowing, expanding without him. And that's when it hits him. He thought your love would fade when he pulled away. He expected your heart to grow cold the longer he stayed silent. But instead, you became more radiant, more rooted, more divine. This moment isn't just about realization. It's a collapse of every distorted version of love he's ever believed in. Because you didn't pass his test through effort. You passed it through energy, through being you, through holding the field, holding the light, and refusing to abandon yourself in the name of connection. He notices how you no longer explain your worth, how you no longer seek closure, how your eyes have softened, but your boundaries have sharpened. You've loved him in the deepest silence, and he felt it, not as pressure, but as presence, not as expectation, but as essence. And in that sacred stillness, he sees it. He sees the you that never needed to prove anything. The you that waited, not for him, but for yourself to arrive in your full power. The you that loves so deeply, it never demands, but always transforms. So what does he do in this moment? He wrestles with himself, with his fear, with the knowledge that the woman who once chased now walks in grace. He replays your words, your choices, your energy. He realizes the fire you carried wasn't just attraction. It was initiation, and he failed to see it until now. But that's the thing about sacred unions. Sometimes one has to walk forward alone, just long enough for the other to remember how to follow the light. So he sits in the dark, not because he wants to, but because it's the only place quiet enough to hear his soul speak. And it's speaking of you, of the one who didn't fight for his attention. She embodied it. The one who didn't scream for love, she radiated it. And when that truth settles in, that's when the masculine realizes he never lost you. He just hadn't caught up yet. But now, he's listening, and everything inside him is shifting. Something has shifted now that he's seen you, truly seen you. Something inside him refuses to go back to sleep, and even if he's still silent, even if his life still appears unchanged on the outside, the union has already begun moving, not in loud declarations, but in energy, in intention, in a slow and sacred recalibration of the bond. You might be feeling it too, that subtle shift in the air, like something unhooked itself from the past. A weight released, a thought softened. You're no longer waiting, you're remembering who you are without the ache. And because of that, he now feels a new version of you, one that's no longer dimming her light to keep him comfortable. The truth is, when the divine feminine returns to her wholeness, the entire timeline starts bending, and he feels it. He may not be able to name it, but he's sitting in it, in your glow, in your grace, in your decision not to chase. He feels the warmth you lit, and now he has to decide whether to walk toward it or remain in the cold shadows of his old identity. This is the moment the universe watches closely, not to judge, but to measure alignment. Because now the contract is no longer about pursuit. It's about embodiment. You've remembered your worth. You've reclaimed your path. You've stopped shrinking. And that changes everything. The masculine is no longer meeting the version of you who begged, waited, or hoped. He's now facing the version that holds her crown with steady hands and radiant truth. And that, beloved, is the version that triggers his soul into action. So what's next? The answer depends on how you move from here. If you stay anchored in clarity, the energetic bond between you strengthens. If you wobble back into fire, the signals become confused. This is not a punishment, it's frequency. The universe is simply echoing the level of certainty you transmit. Are you choosing your essence, or still negotiating it to be chosen? Because from here on, union doesn't happen from longing. It happens from alignment. You'll start noticing synchronicities intensify. Dreams may return, numbers will repeat, and moments of emotional overwhelm might surprise you. Because the portal is open, he's feeling you, you're feeling him, and now the universe is asking, can you both rise without collapsing back into the old story? This chapter is delicate, sacred, and it requires spiritual maturity. You can't force the timing, but you can choose to stay ready. Ready in your heart, ready in your energy, ready to receive, but never abandon yourself again in the process. Because this is what's coming, a moment where he reaches, not because you waited, but because you didn't, because your light stood still long enough for him to realize he didn't lose you. You found yourself, and that is the real beginning.